Welcome back, where it is so lovely to be you. A man is growing older. He's in a wheelchair and he has a dream. And in this dream, he has a premonition that he is no longer going to be on this earth plane. He is no longer going to be alive. So he says, okay, I'm going to prepare a trip for my wife and I to travel and see our children before I leave. And before he does this, he decides long and hard, and he prays over it. He says, am I going to tell my wife? No, it'll probably scare her. And she likes to talk, so she might tell the family members, and I don't know if I'd be able to handle that. Now, this man was a minister, so he knew that he was going to have to leave people in charge. And although he knew that whether he chose a person to be in charge or whether he closed his church, people would still decide to do whatever it was that they wanted to do. So he decided, okay, I'm just going to make the plans. So he goes to New York and he goes and he visits his children. When he stops at his son and daughter-in-law's home, he's not welcome. He and his wife are not welcome. So his son takes him to his granddaughter's house where he is welcomed. He enjoys the fact that everyone has to take their shoes off. And when coming in, he says he wishes that he had done this growing up. He starts looking at all the different examples while visiting. And he says, wow, wish I had made this choice. I wish I had. And he stops wishing and he just starts enjoying his trip because he knows he's not going to be around forever. While visiting, he notices how happy his granddaughter is to prepare meals for him, and the interaction is great, and he feels guilty for some of the things that happened growing up. How people spoke negatively and all the rumors that were always going on. And he was sorry that he allowed so many things to happen. But he enjoys his trip. On this trip, he has to make a decision. He has to figure out what he's leaving to the individuals that he's visiting. And he notices that while visiting, he stays at his granddaughter's home and she has to go to work throughout the day. He notices how she checks in and calls her grandmother to make sure everything is okay. And he also notices how his son comes into his granddaughter's house and goes through her things while she's at work. He doesn't think this is right. And he's still observing his son, and he says, wow, I really wish that I had spent more time with my son. Perhaps I could have made a difference. So he begins to feel guilty. And he starts to look back on all the different things that happened. And he looks back on how when he fell short on money and wasn't able to support the family very well, how this son, his oldest son, came through and helped out. And he felt a bit of disappointment when he looked back, how his wife gave his son a bigger plate of food than him sometimes when this happened. It was almost like they were in competition. Although he was disappointed in some of these experiences, he realized that these were learning experiences. You see, sometimes we look at what people say and we look at what people do. When a person says that they love you, how do they show you that they love you? Are they participating in showing you in a loving way? Or are their words not matching their actions? People speak a good game sometimes, but they don't always behave in the same way. You see, when you're up, it's good for people to meet you there because they want something out of the deal sometimes. Or maybe the interaction is more appreciative because people are giving. But what about when you don't have so much? What if you have nothing? Is this person still going to meet you halfway and treat you and appreciate you in the same manner? So he goes around and he visits, and he notices how his other grandchildren come and visit for a short period of time, but he doesn't see much of them during this trip. And it's okay. He's so happy to see his great-grands now, seeing more of how the family is, developing. So he goes to an old church that he once visited in Harlem. And he sees some of the ministers there, and he sees how some things have changed drastically. When the ending of the trip comes and it's time for them to go home, he's happy to go home, but he's more so happy that he was able to see all the individuals and to enjoy the time that he spent. The night before, his granddaughter, not only does his wife bathe him and take him to the couch where he is sleeping on, but the granddaughter massages him and he falls asleep. He can't understand, or he can't quite remember ever feeling this happy before. And he knows that this time is drawing near, so he knows that he needs to hurry up and prepare the paperwork that needs to be presented, because he realizes that everyone that says that they love you might present that love in different ways. Sometimes it's empty, sometimes it's full. But he really appreciated the meals that he had together. He enjoyed the time spent with these family members before leaving and going back home. But he knows more than anything that some of the choices that he made throughout his lifetime with his family members could have been better. But he's leaving with a soft space in his heart, knowing that love is had. A lot of us spend time with family members, and we love them and we appreciate the things that they do for us and that we participate in with them. However, when we look back, we say, okay, how can I make better choices this time? How can I say that I love a person and show it more, instead of always leaving with emptiness, empty words? A lot of people say certain things, but are they truly feeling that way, or are they just filling the space and time? We can fill space and time by having empty or even commercial conversation, by talking about absolutely nothing. What is remembered more than anything is your actions. How did you show love? How did you appreciate that time? Even if you're sitting in silence and holding a person's hand, that's still a form of communication. It can be seen as well as a form of love. How do we show the people in our life that we appreciate them? By not just using empty words. Are our actions leading by the same example? Or are we just leading people astray? Let us remember that, because one of the things that we want to remember when we love each other, we want to know that we are setting good examples for that next person. We are showing our love towards that next person by not always having to buy something, but by spending that quality time. For it is so lovely being you, especially when you can share moments in love. Thank you for joining us.